I've been doing this for a long time now, contributing to PHP. I started doing that because I wanted PHP to do something it couldn't do yet. So I was scratching an itch there. And that is how I started working on Xdebug. I'm no longer quite a PHP developer anymore. I don't write PHP code, but I still work on the language. It's something that I've always found interesting, to work on a language that lots of other people use. And improving that is still something that's useful for everybody. On the same side, Xdebug is a tool that now many people use. They use it as a productivity tool. There's how do you say that? There's so much more that it can do to make people's life easier. And I still find it interesting to work on as well. The PHP language has changed so much over the last 25 years. 25 years we didn't know what JSON was, right? CSS has barely been invented. So the web continues to move on with so many new things, and PHP is continuing to follow that, and that is what I find interesting about continuing to work on the language. It also helps a little bit that now the PHP Foundation exists. They have hired, at the moment I think it's 10 people to work part-time on the language, and of course having a bit of a financial incentive on the side also helps, I would say, for me to continue to be able to spend time on something that otherwise I would have to do as a spare time project. As I said before, I think it is important that people continue with their professional life. I like talking to people, sometimes, and because I've been doing this for now so long, I also, at every place, I know people from before, so it's always good to hang out with people I already know. So there's both the side, like, it's sort of a party, and at the same time, you can, even though I've given talks about Xdebug 200 times maybe, there's always going to be new people that don't know what it is. I talk about what's new things in PHP every year. That talk is different. So I can continue to explain to people, to developers, new things in the language, how to get better at developing things, how to make their lives easier. And I think it's important that people that have been doing things for a long time can also talk about how languages and how technology has helped my career, for example, because without PHP I wouldn't, well, I probably would have a career, but it would be a very different one than it currently is. So the PHP Foundation got started just over 3 years ago. Originally the idea was that I was helping out on the board side, but I figured out that I don't really want to be an administrator and stuff like that, because that's boring to me. So the idea then became that I started working on it, and at that time I hadn't really done a lot with the language for quite some time, because I had a 7-year full-time job. After a full-time job, you don't really necessarily want to work in the evenings on other things technology-wise, like to go to cinemas, for example. So when that started, I had a big backlog of things that I worked on in the past. So I worked on PHP's daytime extension, and that is complicated stuff, and I want lots of bug reports. So I spent basically the first year and a bit of me working for the PHP Foundation going through all of that, because there was literally so much of it. And then since then I've been, for many different reasons, been doing more of the systems architecture between the infrastructure that the PHP project is hosted on. Because that was a big mess. There's like 12 different servers, and all the people have different access to each of these servers, and nobody knows how anything works anymore. So my current thing is to actually make that better, so that it isn't just 1.5 person that knows how everything works, because that is of course never a good idea for any sort of project, right? I mean, something happens and then nobody knows how to get access to stuff anymore. And similarly, the idea behind the PHP Foundation is also that we get people in there that haven't contributed yet, and then it is up for the people that have been around for a long time to help them getting started with the project. So those are the things I found most interesting at the moment. At the same time, I've been looking little experimental things here and there, like our documentation now has the ability to run code examples on the website. Somebody else wrote the initial prototype for that, but that needed quite a bit more work, so we started working on that. So to make it a lot easier for people to get started with PHP again. PHP has always been a language that has been touted as easy for beginners, but there isn't really a good, easy tutorial on the PHP.net website to get started with the language. So these things that are missing, some of the developer experiments that we're missing, is something that I'm currently interested in. But I can also see that in another year or so, I want to do coding again, and maybe do something around something about internationalization and Unicode and that kind of thing, because this is functionality that PHP doesn't really do very well, at least not in my opinion. I just gave a talk about Xdebug, where I sort of explained what is going on in the next few years. So the thing I'm mostly, I think would be really cool to have is a way of, currently when you're debugging, you need to go step by step. And when you make a step too far, you can't go back because the code has been executed. Similarly, if other people run your code, you can't debug that because it doesn't run on your machine. So what I would like to be working on is a mechanism so people can record basically the whole run of a script or an application or a page request. That creates a big file. You can ship that, and you can then use that with a wrap around it to then do debugging. So you can basically inspect every state in there of a whole execution run without having to run the code, and that then also means that you can step back and basically investigate everything that's going on. It's like an MRI for PHP running, and I'm looking forward to doing that, but it's going to take me a lot of time to work on. But that is definitely in the pipeline for the future. I like it because I get to see my Dutch and Belgian friends again, speak terrible Dutch again, and also my parents still live here, so I also go see my parents. But DPC itself as a conference has gotten a bit bigger again, especially during the pandemic it went all virtual, but now it's being combined with WebDevCon and FDevCon. It's now it's a wider ecosystem, so that also means that sometimes you get interaction with other technologies around it, which is also a good thing to have.